This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Wendy Griffith. We begin in Venezuela, where tensions are still high after violent protests turned deadly this week. CBN's senior international correspondent George Thomas is following the latest developments from our newsroom. George.
A Venezuelan human rights group, Wendy, claims 4 people died in street clashes this week after the opposition leader Juan Guaido called for a military uprising. It is relatively calm today, as you can see, on the streets of the Venezuelan capital, Caracas, as government forces are out in full force trying to stabilize the country after a violent 48 hours. Residents are back on the streets, as you can see, trying to resume life under very, very difficult circumstances.
I see a bad future ahead if we continue in the situation that we are living, if things do not change. I don't believe they will. Because how are we going to live like this with the situation? Our salaries are not enough. We have problems. We do not even have appliances. If something breaks, there is no way to get something new. Everything is too expensive.
This was the scene. We have video here. This was the scene Wednesday as police, loyal to socialist dictator Nicolas Maduro, fired buckshot at protesters who had heeded Guaido's call to take to the streets. A 27-year-old woman was reportedly shot in the head, and at least 46 people injured when pro- and anti-government supporters clashed in a suburb of Caracas. Guaido urged members of the military on Tuesday to revolt against Maduro, hoping high-ranking military officers would defect and shake the leader's grip on power. It didn't happen. In a show of force and more so defiance, Maduro, flanked by members of the National Bolivarian Armed Forces, paraded along an army base in Caracas early this morning. He praised them for their loyalty and vowed to punish those who tried to overthrow his government. Maduro, who has the backing of Russia and China, has refused to step down following months of demonstrations and pressure from the United States and more than 60 countries. Meanwhile, Cuba, which reportedly has some 20,000 troops and agents in Venezuela propping up Maduro's government, held a rally in Havana in support of the dictator. All this, Wendy, coming as Washington decides what to do next. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said U.S. military action is possible in Venezuela to help opposition leader Juan Guaido unseat Maduro. Meanwhile, Guaido is urging his supporters to remain in the streets. He's calling for public employees to go on strike tomorrow. Wendy?
Thank you so much, George. And now CBN News contributor Chuck Colton just returned from Cúcuta, Colombia, on the Venezuelan border. Chuck, good to see you.
Good to see you, Wendy.
Now, Maduro reportedly had a plane waiting for him to take him to Cuba. Russia intervened, as you know. Now he's staying. How bad is this for the opposition party?
Well, I think what this shows you, first of all, is that Maduro doesn't have any confidence in his own troops to protect him. And number two, it shows you that Russia has a very strong vested interest in propping up Maduro. And because this is a proxy battle now between the United States and Russia, China, Hezbollah, Iran, all of the people on that side of the aisle.
Right.
So what happens here, what ends up happening here, is going to really have more to do about that relationship between us and those other countries that we compete with.
Well, we have something called the Monroe Doctrine, where the United States is supposed to protect any country in our hemisphere from interference by a foreign power. Do you think that the U.S. will honor this? Well,
honoring it is something that we've declared. That, look, you're not going to mess around in our backyard. We're not going to permit that.
Right.
This is a long-standing policy of the United States. And I think Donald Trump is doing everything he can to stand by that policy within reason. I mean, they're trying. This has to be done in steps. He can't just go in and bomb Caracas. He's got to go step by step, put the pressure on every way he knows how. But I can tell you, I've been on the phone even in the last few minutes with Venezuelan troops who have defected that are begging for U.S. intervention, begging for help. They want to go in and take back their own country. But they're telling me that Maduro is arresting large, thousands of Venezuelan troops right now and putting them behind bars, putting them under detainment so that they cannot switch sides.
Yeah.
And with 20,000 Cuban troops in the country, if the Venezuelan military, if and when they do switch sides completely, they're going to have a real fight on their hands to beat not only the Cuban troops, but also the gangs of colectivos, the Maduro thugs.
Chuck, you were there right on the border. How bad is it for the Venezuelans coming across to Colombia right now? What is the situation like for them?
It's absolutely horrific. And the tales they tell of the want and starvation and sickness that is happening. I've had people tell me that they're doing open heart surgery with no anesthesia inside Caracas, inside Venezuela. I've had people that have come out and have shown me pictures of things like that. And the colectivos along the border, the thugs along the border have been beefed up. There have been more and more added all the time because they're very afraid of a military intervention coming out of Colombia.
All right, Chuck, we really appreciate your... I actually have one more question for you. I think we have time. What kind of humanitarian aid is there in Colombia to help the Venezuelans who are streaming over the border?
A lot of organizations, including our own Operation Blessing, are doing a great job of helping those people that are coming across the border, and they're doing it in the right way. If we send aid into Venezuela right now, we will literally be propping up this corrupt government, because if you make it easier for people to live there, it's less likely they're going to just rise up and do what they have to do to kick out their leader. Yeah. Operation Blessing is feeding people, they're giving medical aid, and they're clean water and all sorts of help, and they're really doing a great job of leveraging people's donations, because what I saw when I was there 2 days ago is that Operation Blessing is taking the money. We're not just spending the money one for one. What we're doing is we're spending it in such a way that it's being amplified and magnified by encouraging other entities and organizations in that area to also contribute and help us. And so I would say that if somebody gives money to Operation Blessing, that money gets magnified many times over.
That's so good to hear, because they need our help and our prayers right now.
They're doing a real good job.
Glad you stayed safe, and I'm glad you're here with us today. Thanks, you, Chuck. Well, U.S. Attorney General William Barr was a no-show today at a House Judiciary Committee session on Special Counsel Robert Mueller's Russia report. Several Democrats called for Barr's resignation after yesterday's heated 5-hour testimony before the Senate committee. Much of the debate criticized Barr's summary of the report. House Judiciary Chairman Gerald Nadler and the Democrats demanded that staff attorneys, in addition to lawmakers, be allowed to question Barr in today's hearing. Barr says he would not attend under those conditions. The House panel is now considering holding Barr in contempt of Congress for failing to show.
You can disagree with the Attorney General all you want, but for yesterday, he sat for over almost 6 hours in the Senate voluntarily asking questions, even on a second round that was taken up by Democrats who wanted to ask more questions. And you can agree, did he do good, did he do bad? It doesn't matter, but we're not getting that opportunity today because the stunt and the circus continues over here.
The Justice Department today also missed a committee deadline to provide the full, unredacted version of Mueller's report and its underlying evidence. We'll have more on this story and other headlines this evening on Faith Nation. You can watch it right here on the CBN News Channel. Well, remember Nick Sandman, the Kentucky high school student accused of harassing a Native American at a pro-life rally? His attorney is suing NBC Universal for $275 million. This video of the Covington Catholic high school student standing face-to-face with a Native American went viral. Reports went out that he and other schoolmates were confronting Native Americans at rallies that day. His lawyer says the media corporation created a false narrative by portraying the alleged confrontation as a hate crime committed by Sandman. His attorney has already filed a lawsuit against CNN and the Washington Post. Well, the reappearance of ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi suggests the Islamic State group has survived the war in Syria. In this video, al-Baghdadi talks about the Easter attacks in Sri Lanka. This is painful news for some of the parents of children who have joined ISIS. On the Global Lane, Christiane Bordeaux shares the story of how her 21-year-old son left Canada and died fighting for ISIS, or with ISIS. She says her faith has helped her move beyond the heartache.
Still have some of those difficult days. Trust me, it never goes away, especially wondering what those lost moments were not being there as a parent to try to protect them, save them, feeling so helpless for so long, no matter how much I begged him to come home. It was absolutely devastating and nowhere to turn. Who could understand what I was going through without the name calling and all the negative comments and understanding how much pain our family was in?
And I imagine you probably had a tendency to beat yourself up a little bit, saying, if I'd only done this, how could I have prevented this? Could I have been a better parent? Could I have done this or that? Did you go through that? What did you go through?
I think every parent does. We all question ourselves. It's the first thing that we do is go within ourselves. And the guilt you carry is overwhelming. It was a matter of all the education and the learning that I did to understand the powers of these groups, to understand that, yes, of course, I could have done many things different. We all can about everything in our lives, but we do the best that we can with the tools that we have at that moment. So emotionally now, at times I still hold that guilt. Logically, I understand the path and how this takes place and the strength of it all.
And I'm sure your faith has helped you through that, has it not? Tell me about that.
It's the only thing I could hang on to. What else do you have? I lost another son in 2001 and almost lost my faith at that time. And in the end, only came through because of it. You try to find something to hang on to. Even though that anger is there, you still need to have that strength to keep pulling you through each day, to wake you up in the morning, to find a new purpose and a new goal in life.
Wow, such courage. Boudreaux heads up an organization called Mothers for Life Network. The group is helping people overcome loss and grief. It's also raising awareness about preventing children from becoming radicalized. And you can hear more from her on The Global Lane. It's on the CBN News Channel tonight at 9:30 Eastern Time. Well, coming up, how people of faith are coming together across the nation today in honor of the National Day of Prayer. And before we go to break, here's what's trending today on CBNNews.com.
CBN presents The I Wills of God, your path to overcoming fear and anxiety.
We're going to talk about some of the incredible promises God has made to His children.
In Pat Robertson's newest teaching, you'll discover the I Wills of God. I will rescue him, protect him, answer him, be with him in trouble, deliver him, honor him, satisfy him with long life, show him my salvation, and see amazing stories of God's promises in action.
What I felt was loved and treasured.
God spared my life twice in 3 days.
The good Lord had given me a second chance.
Break free from stress and despair.
The Lord doesn't want you to live in fear, but to know the rewards given to those who love God.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or visit CBN.com. The I Wills of God, your path to overcoming fear and anxiety.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Today is the National Day of Prayer, and all over the country, people are gathering together to pray, even on Capitol Hill. Faith leaders came together last night at a White House dinner. This annual tradition dates back to 1990. This year's theme for the day is Love One Another. Today, President Trump spoke from the Rose Garden during a special ceremony. Trump saying his faith in God is what has helped him get through these tough battles during his presidency.
And as God promises in the Bible, those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on the wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. And they will walk and not be faint. And that's something that Mike and I think about all the time. Right, Mike? People say, how do you get through that whole stuff? How do you go through those witch hunts and everything else? And you know what we do, Mike? We just do it, right? And we think about God.
Mike, of course, being the Vice President, Mike Pence. And to see if there's an event happening in your area today, you can visit nationaldayofprayer.org. Well, CBN News reporter Charlene Aaron is here to share more about this National Day of Prayer.
Yes.
And, well, you pray every day.
I love prayer.
And you love prayer.
Yes.
Why, you know, it might sound like an obvious question, but why do we need to pray?
Oh, my gosh. Prayer is everything. Prayer, first of all, is communication with God. But just think about it. We are invited to ask God, the God of the universe, to come into our circumstances and to change things. You hear people say prayer changes things?
Yeah.
That's because God is powerful and we're inviting him to come in and make a difference in our lives. So if we want to see positive change, pray.
Yeah.
Invite God to come in and do things that naturally cannot happen.
Charlene, what does the Bible have to say about prayer?
Oh, wow. There is so many things that God says in his word about prayer. Pray without ceasing. Yeah. We're invited to pray without ceasing. And it also tells us in James 5:17, you know, that the effectual, fervent prayer of a righteous person availeth much. That means there's tremendous power released when we pray and invite God to make a difference in our lives.
Well, you spoke with this year's organizer, director of the National Prayer Event, Dr. Ronnie Floyd.
That's right.
What did he have to say?
Yeah.
I love the theme this year, Love One Another.
I love it. It's very powerful. And he really urged us as Christians to really pray for spiritual revival in America. Here's what he said.
The government cannot fix us, and politics cannot heal us. And I also know it's been decades since the last move of God in a great way across this nation. We're overdue, and the church needs to rise up and pray like never before. Pray like it really matters. Pray like we really believe God. And let's trust the Lord for the next great spiritual awakening in the United States. That's what the greatest need is in America today.
I really hear him saying desperate prayer.
Absolutely.
For desperate times,
Absolutely.
We'll get desperate answers.
And what he said, pray like we really believe God. Because you can pray, but you can pray not in faith. So we have to pray in faith, believing that God has the power to do what we're asking him to do.
That's right. And there are, of course, major events, prayer events happening all across the globe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. People are calling upon the name of the Lord. And here's what the promise of God says. If my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray, turn from their wicked ways, seek my face, then I will hear from heaven.
Right.
And I will hear their prayers and I will answer them and I will heal their land. Call upon me, the Bible says, Jeremiah 33:3, and I will answer thee, and I will show you great things that you have not seen before.
I love it. Well, we do a show together called Prayer Link. It's all about prayer.
Absolutely.
And I just love doing that show because we can just stop wherever we want in the show and say, we need to pray about this.
We're praying about the headlines, what's happening in the news and in our world, and we're seeing God do some things.
We sure are.
Amen.
Well, God bless you, Charlene.
Thank you.
Alrighty, well, you can see the full interview with Dr. Ronnie Floyd on today's episode of Prayer Link. It's right here on the CBN News Channel, and you can check out me and Charlene on that show. Well, still ahead, remembering one of the darkest times in world history, the Holocaust, where 6 million Jews were murdered.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
You know, I think as a father, it's my job, you know, to lead. Just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. comedies and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
Millsburg Falls man. Come.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes too, and so much more. Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
Discover the I wills of God. I will rescue him, protect him, answer him, be with him in trouble, deliver him, honor him, satisfy him with long life, show him my salvation.
What I felt was loved and treasured.
God spared my life twice in 3 days.
The good Lord had given me a second chance.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or visit CBN.com. The I wills of God, the latest teaching from Pat Robertson.
When I came to Regent University, it's like the world opened up. I felt like I needed to advance my career and go back to school. Regent was a perfect fit for me. The Regent professors are world class. You are equipped. The focus of the faculty is on each individual student, whether it's online or in person. You become a part of Regent's family. You carry with you not just the content and the knowledge, but the confidence to understand that we can be significant in the world.
Regent University. Follow your path.
Israel is marking Holocaust Martyrs and Heroes Remembrance Day today, honoring those who were killed in the Holocaust. CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl has the story.
Sirens blared, calling Israel to a halt for 2 minutes in honor of the memory of the 6 million Jews murdered in the Holocaust.
It's our first time being here during the Holocaust Memorial, and it was very powerful.
I was praying for peace and everything, and I was thinking about all of the Holocaust and the victims.
All the world, we need to remember this day, but I'm very sad that every day I think the memory is going and going down, so my children don't know nothing about the Holocaust.
Events began the previous night when the Israeli flag was lowered to half-mast at Yad Vashem's Holocaust Memorial in Jerusalem. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and President Reuven Rivlin addressed the opening ceremony of Holocaust Martyrs and Heroes Remembrance Day. Both spoke about growing anti-Semitism and the need to fight it.
We live in a paradox today. The worldwide admiration for the Jewish state is accompanied in certain circles with the rise of hatred of Jews. The radical right, radical left, and radical Islamic groups agree on only one thing: hatred of Jews. This is not a legitimate criticism of Israel, but a systematic, poisonous, and shallow hatred that constantly undermines the legitimacy of the Jewish nation state and only the Jewish nation state.
Political forces where anti-Semitism and racism are part of their language, their legacy, or their ideology can never be our allies. There is no such thing as loving Israel and hating Jews, just like there is no such thing as loving Jews and hating Israel.
Israel remembers the Holocaust every year according to the Hebrew calendar on the anniversary of the 1943 Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. Though the Jewish fighters were almost all killed, it marked a shift in thinking from victim to fighter. Later, it helped shape Israel's national identity, symbolizing strength and the fight for freedom in the face of death. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
After the break, a unique rescue in California, where a baby sea lion was found far away from home.
As the world watches from the outside,
it's a big diplomatic tug-of-war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline, Friday night at 9:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
Meet the pastors who are preaching the gospel in a fresh, fearless way. I'm Roberto Torres-Cedillo. Join me each week for Next Gen Voices. And watch God transform a generation.
It has the power to influence weight loss, boost your immune system, and improve brain function.
We've seen an explosion of data on the role of the gut microbiome in health.
The free Build a Better Gut booklet reveals the latest information about the gut microbiome. You'll discover how your gut affects the rest of your health.
The gut microbiome has been linked to depression and cancer and heart disease.
Learn how to build a stronger, healthier gut.
The microbiome, if it's in good composition, are really protecting us all the time from more invasive things.
Get the Build a Better Gut booklet, free from the Christian Broadcasting Network. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/buildabettergut.
You need to make sure that your microbes are working with you, not against you.
And if you order online, you'll get immediate access to the Build a Better Gut series, a digital copy of the booklet, and related bonus material. Build a Better Gut today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/buildabettergut for your free copy.
And finally, highway patrol workers in California made an interesting rescue earlier this week. A baby sea lion wandered onto a busy highway in South San Francisco Tuesday, stopping vehicles and alarming motorists who had tried to shoo the sea lion to safer ground. Officials were able to eventually get the animal into a patrol car, seen here. It was taken to the Peninsula Humane Society and will be transported to the Marine Mammal Center in Sausalito, California. He's so cute. The sea lion will then move to a rehabilitation pool to recover, as I'm sure that was very traumatic. Well, before we go, a reminder to check out our daily CBN News Rundown podcast with Caitlin Burke. She gives a behind-the-scenes look at a key story in the news every day. You can find that at cbnnews.com on the show tab. Click on its title and listen and subscribe. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of NewsWatch. You can find more on the issues you care about most at cbnnews.com. You can also watch CBN News programs anytime on our CBN News channel. We'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. Just email us at newswatch@cbn.com or reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We hope you'll join us next time. Until then, God bless you.